You're an aviation expert. How could something like this happen? That's what Americans are wondering all across the country.
Well, Denise, they've been hijacking airplanes for many years. Obviously, they hijacked 4 more today. And with that hijacking, they were able to turn them into weapons.
But aren't we supposed to have stepped up security? And a question even about the pilot, is the cockpit door supposed to be locked? You wonder, how does a person gain access?
Well, the cockpit doors are locked, but with all of the hijackings that have occurred, obviously it's not difficult to get in if you are armed or have the means of forcing your way in.
Captain Beckett, I wonder, and again, this is probably just going to be speculation on your part, your answer here, but what do you suppose has happened here? Do you suppose the crew was forced at gunpoint to fly into these buildings, or do you suspect that they might have been disabled somehow and these hijackers got at the controls? And how hard would it be for them to fly one of these big planes?
Well, it's a hypothetical, but my personal belief is that the crew members are not going to fly an airplane into a building. I believe that they were incapacitated or perhaps not even alive at that time.
And how hard is it to fly one of these? How hard would it be for someone just to steer an aircraft, unless we assume that these people were experienced pilots?
I think you've got to assume that they've at least got minimal pilot skills, and perhaps not the skill to take off or land, but the skill to operate an aircraft in flight. And that would not be a terribly difficult thing to do for an experienced pilot, light plane or otherwise.
What kind of changes do you think we'll see in security after this tragedy?
The problem is, you know, no one expected, and certainly the question will have to be raised at some point, why were we not prepared? In the sense, why were we not prepared for an airplane to crash into the World Trade Center? This is something that has been talked about by experts, scenarios, possible scenarios, and I don't know, but it certainly seemed like nobody expected this. It certainly seemed like there's no way, I don't know how we could prepare if we could, but it certainly was something that no one, certainly you wouldn't have all these officers and firefighters inside those buildings when they collapsed, had we known.
I think, yes, I think that certainly we'll be looking into that, because the buildings were vulnerable, in hindsight, clearly. Once you had that intense jet fuel fire burning and weakening the steel that held the upper floors up, there was some vulnerability there. You would think that engineers would know that. And
well, it all happened pretty quickly. I mean, part of the problem is, if you remember from 1993, that entire van, the Ryder van, was filled with explosives. It didn't do anything to the structure of the World Trade Center. It did not affect it at all. But during the trial, the terrorists who were tried and convicted for bombing the World Trade Center in 1993, they said our intent was to knock down the World Trade Center towers.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Totally. And it seems, if in fact these are the same people, we don't know that yet, but if it is, one would have to say they finally succeeded in what the plan was in 1993, to knock down these buildings.
Building 7, World Trade Tower number 7, T-Wall, went down within the past hour, and our sister station, the cable network, MSNBC, was on the air live when number 7 went down. We want to take a look at that unfolding live earlier.
We have the wrong tape there, but we're going to get that tape. You're going to see number 7 collapse in a moment here, as soon as we get the correct tape queued up. Forgive us, because it's a little bit confusing around here from time to time, but in any event, T.Y., let's continue our conversation about the mayor and how he's handled this. In the emergency bunker, when they function, the plan is to have heads of every agency show up in an emergency like this in a specific location, so you can coordinate the fire department, the sanitation department, the transit authority. All of these people have to be coordinated.
Which is a good idea. I mean, and it used to be in police headquarters. They moved it to the OEM center, state of the art. Everything was state of the art. We were told that bulletproof, bomb-proof, hurricane-proof, but not apparently building collapse-proof. I mean, that's the, and whether one can have expected that, whether the experts should have thought of that, you know, I don't know. We will have to find out in the months to come, certainly.
Okay, thanks, T.Y.
Rob? As safe as we can, and we can't guarantee their safety, but little ones, yes, just tell them you're fine. You're going to be okay.
Thank you so much. Some great advice for a lot of households tonight.
All right, we have already seen a number of prayer services
all over the state, in Brantford and New Haven. News Channel 8's Verna Collins is going to join us now live from a prayer service on the New Haven Green going on right now. Verna?
That's right. Keith and Ann, it actually just got underway. As you can see behind me, there's some people who have gathered out here. They're speaking to ministers and reverends and fathers from various churches on the Green and throughout the community. I talked to a rector at one of the churches here, the Episcopal Church on the Green. He told me that this is a chance for people to get support, to ask God for guidance in this very difficult situation, and to realize that faith, family, and relationships are very important. When I spoke to that rector today, he told me that he believes people are having trouble grasping what happened today because most people are too young to be able to relate this to anything. They haven't seen anything as tragic or as graphic as this. Many people haven't witnessed war. So he said they really have nothing to base this on, and that is why their common thread out here, he said, is religion. So they're looking for a common thread to put all of this in perspective. He could...
Smart thing to do.
We were watching, and a few minutes later we saw the second one go out. Then I was on the train, and I thought I was shook up, and a girl sitting across from me had been in the second tower, and she said she saw bodies falling from the first tower.
I highly doubt that any of us will be going to work in New York tomorrow.
The state police have set up a command center, and as you heard Mark Davis report, Governor Rowland is expected here later this evening. Annie Keith, to tell you a side story, there was a father and 3 young children who came to the train station to pick up their mother. He pulled out of his pocket and showed me. I was at the playground, and the school was passing this out, trying to tell us how to explain this to our kids. He said, I didn't let them watch TV, and I didn't tell them about it. Back to you.
All right, Darren Cox, thank you.
We want to remind you that all planes across the country, the first time in the nation's history, all planes are grounded everywhere. There's no air traffic until at least noon tomorrow.
All right, and that would certainly include Bradley International Airport and Windsor Locks. That's where News Channel 8's Jody Latina is right now. She's been there for the balance of the day. What's going on up there, Jody?
Well, Keith, it's been clear here for about 7 hours now, nothing going in or out. The only planes that we did see were actually helicopters, and those were from the National Guard. Those took off shortly after 11 this morning. That was after they announced that they would be telling folks to get their baggage, to get back off the plane. Some were on the tarmac ready to go. Some passengers described to us that the flight crew and the captains came over the monitors and the speakers and telling them that there was a terrorist attack on American soil and they would not be going out anywhere. So as you can imagine, lines backed up inside at those ticket counters as the airline folks tried to really scramble to keep folks calm, but to also let them know that they really did need to make some phone calls to find folks to pick them up at the airport, to make arrangements to stay at hotels. And also, they're not allowing anyone really near the airport. We've been pushed about a half a mile away from the main terminal. They've got state police troopers at the entrances. There were bomb sniffing dogs earlier, and anyone that might have business at the airport is being asked to show a photo ID. Again, a heightened sense of security. No airport planes coming in or out, and that remains the status quo across the nation. Back to you.
All right.